the Philippines, and then he said mega diversity. You see, so it's kind of like.
And that actually makes us the go-to place for orchids?
Yes, actually. Here's one of the stories there that I'm just going to make a short background. The orchid in front of us is a descendant of the Waling-Waling, or in the native tongue of the Bogobo tribe is Waring-Waring.
Okay.
So in the 1800s, when this orchid was discovered, there was a huge fortune that led to finding this orchid. And then because of that, Europeans have been flocking to the Philippines secretively to get our orchids
Okay.
and bring it back to Europe. Because during that time, it was a part of royalty and a part of nobility for you to own an orchid. That's why for 200 years, orchidology and horticulture, especially for Philippine orchids, was a big thing. And unfortunately, some of us here in the Philippines have really no idea of what we have, and that's the sad part.
Because they take it for granted. Ang dami natin nakikitang orchids.
Yes.
And then ngayon, they're like, oh, okay, it's nothing too fancy. Pero dun sa ibang bansa, they
At ang
really
worry
hide
natin
it.
ngayon is marami na kasing nauubos.
Yes.
So the whole point of the organization, of the League of Orchid Conservationists, is to be able to identify and at the same time come up with breeding, to be able to breed them so that people can have them and accumulate them and have them if they want to acquire them from proper breeding facilities and farms rather than taking them from the wild and sending them back to where they came from so that they can take care of the environment the way they were meant to be.
It's not a joke trying to grow these orchids. As growing up, I've seen my mom grow orchids, but it doesn't last long in our area. But, how did you get into this, and how can one actually grow these kinds of orchids? You said there's more than 1,000 types of orchids, 1,200
yeah.
here in the Philippines.
It's actually, there are no mysteries to it, and that's just the point. Part of LOCPHIL's mandate is to educate people. You can, I'm a businesswoman and a housewife, and I'm growing them. These came from my garden. So if I can do it, anybody can. It's a matter of information, knowing how, and then how to take care of them. By the way, it's a misnomer that they don't last long, because these flowers can last up to 2 weeks when they're live, like in this state.
Yeah.
So they're better than cut flowers. And on top, when they're done, you take them out, put them back in your garden, and next season you've got another bloom from the same plant.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that I myself have learned through the organization.
Thank you.
So I would like to be able to encourage people to go green in whatever way they want. In my case, and in the case of the group, we love flowers, we love orchids. So we decided to be able to support the environment because, like I said, trees are highly affected by orchids.
Yeah. So,
So
they're like their partners.
Definitely. So we partner with the League of Orchid Conservationists. Niel has become a very close friend, and everybody else on the group. And we're part of an education campaign, which UNI is also there for. We
Okay.
educate.
How
for
do you
that.
That's one
say
of their
it's a
advocacy.
partner of trees?
Yes.
Why would you
Paano
say
siya
that?
naging
Yeah, paano
partner?
siya naging partner?
Okay. What people don't understand about orchids is they have this way of balancing out on the skin of the tree because they're called epiphytes. In Latin, that means growing on the skin. So what orchids are, and they're not air plants, that's a misnomer. They're not an air plant. They actually grow on the skin or the bark of the tree. Now, the health of the tree is dependent on its bark also. So during the rainy season, fungus will accumulate on all of those nooks and crannies. And what actually the orchid does is it balances it out by feeding on some of those fungus and preventing it from proliferating. So by removing those epiphytes in orchids, it could actually shorten the life cycle of a tree, or the lifespan of a tree rather. So by having all of those orchids growing on a tree and leaving it there in the wild,
Where they belong.
where
yeah.
they belong, could actually lengthen the lifetime of the tree, maybe 200, 500 years old. And sometimes those orchids could be as old as that.
Really?
Yes.
So in being able to preserve something that is so naturally beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're still helping the environment. And we're always complaining dito sa metros, within Metro Manila, sa baha. It's because we don't have enough trees.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So if you're preserving something as gorgeous as an orchid, you're helping out trees and what we have left and what we've planted. And basically what can happen is you're helping out the environment. You're going green in your own little way
Plus, it's
while
making
enjoying.
it look prettier. Like all of
Exactly.
these flowers
And you're enjoying
everywhere.
something.
Diba?
And on top, to find out and to understand, which I learned from the org, was basically you've got 1,200 identified from endemic, meaning only found in the Philippines.
Now, for something like what we see here, how long does it take for an orchid to be this?
Optimally, between 4 to 6 years.
4 to 6 years to
Yes,
be?
and a very mature plant can take 8 to 10 years before they start blooming in some cases.
Now, what kind of care does an orchid need
It's
to
not
last
that
that long?
complicated. Actually, that's what I learned as a businesswoman that got into the advocacy, because that was my thing. I learned from then, and many of we're very blessed that we have the foremost knowledgeable Philippine taxonomist as a mentor in the group, Mr. Jim Coots.
Yes, he's the one who started the group.
Yes, he's the one who started, one of the ones who started the group, and he's known worldwide. And basically, the only care it takes is you've got to have the right environment. Trees are optimal, they would be the best. The right care, the right feeding, fertilizer, and water. Basically, what it would get out in the wild. And since we do grow them in the metro, you might need some help when it comes to the fungus and the like. So there are certain things naturally that you can be able to do and put into it so that it can prevent it from destroying an orchid. But once you know the basic elements, which by the way, they teach in Orchidology 1 through their mentor, Mr. Ray Ong, and many other members who are well known in the industry, and their partnership with the Philippine Horticultural Society.
In Quezon City
How big is
Circle.
your group, and what kind of information drive or teaching do you do?
Well, it all started with a Facebook page.
Digital.
And, yeah, digital, believe it or not. Because as you can see, orchids are very visual.
Yes.
So in order for you to get attention and also support, you need to keep on posting pictures.
Yes.
And then once we have noticed that the people were just interested about the flowers and not really about the identity of the orchid, that's where Jim Coots approached the group and saying, why not you help me educate these people? By the way, Jim Coots, as you would notice from his name, is not a Filipino. He's actually an Australian. He is a retired postmaster that got assigned here to the Philippines. And during the time that he's been traveling, he fell in love, and especially our orchids. Now, Mr. Coots has taught us all of the knowledge that he has. He actually has 3 books out in the market. I'm sorry I didn't bring it today.
It's fine.
Those books are a treasure trove of his knowledge
For Philippine
for
orchids.
Filipinos. And he's doing it for the future of the Philippines, which are the kids.
Thank you so much, Miss Mitch, and of course, Mr. Niel. You're giving us so much information about being eco-friendly in the simplest of ways. And if you guys want to learn more, all you got to do is check out their Facebook pages. For Uniball, it's just Uniball Philippines. And of course, for the LOCPHIL, it's League of Orchids Conservationists, right?
Yes.
Conservationist Philippines, if you want to learn more and ask them more questions.
Well, they wish we had more time, but that's all we have for now. See you next week for another episode of Brand TV.